Okay, so this week in Comm 102, we're talking about two very important parts of communication. In fact, I could spend an entire week just on one of them, and it wouldn't matter which one, because you could spend a week on language. In face-to-face classes, we spend 6 hours talking about language. And the other one is nonverbal communication. And I actually have been known to go a week and a half just on that particular topic because so much of our communication is nonverbal. This picture in front of you on the screen, 6 faces. You can look at any one of these 6 faces and you can kind of already tell what's going on with the person, how they're feeling, what they're thinking, and there's no words exchanged at all. It's just facial expressions, which is our biggest channel for emotion. If you go back to the models of communication and all the channels that we communicate back and forth, nonverbal has a whole lot of channels. There's actually 10 total nonverbal channels if you count vocalics, which is how you say the words, as one of the channels, which we do from an academic standpoint. So we're going to look at the importance today of nonverbal communication. And it's important because 93% of all the communication that we do is nonverbal. The language, which is the other part we're studying this week, right, is only 7%. And if you think of language, I put up a really good video that shows you how effective language is, and how it shapes us and how it affects our culture. And it also helps us to pass our culture down through generations. And language is an amazing tool, but it's only 7%. 93% is nonverbal. About roughly 30% of that is the vocalics. So things like the way you say the words affects the meaning. So I've always said, I come home from work tonight and my wife comes home and she says to me, I say to her, how are you doing? And she goes, oh, I'm fine. And I can tell she's fine, as opposed to I'm fine. The exact same words, language, but the vocalics around how she said it clearly tells me it's time to get out of the house, right? Or, oh, you look wonderful in that, is a different feel than you look wonderful in that. See, completely different message is sent just by the words that we use and how we say them. And the words are the same, but how we say them greatly affects it. So we're going to look at nonverbal real quickly. And of course, it's me, so probably not super quickly, but we're going to look at what is nonverbal communication. And nonverbal is all of the behaviors and characteristics that we use to convey meaning to other people without actual words. And we've been around longer than we had language. I mean, if you can remember, there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years where people existed and had not developed language yet. And yet we were able to communicate all kinds of things. Now, over in languages, we're talking not just English, Spanish, French, but even things like hieroglyphics and, there's picture languages and numbers and musical symbols. All of those are language. Take all of that out. We can still communicate very clearly a whole lot of stuff. And just to show you the importance of nonverbal communication, this is a video I found when I very first started teaching, and I show it in all of my classes, and now the other two full-time professors here in Bloomington show this to their classes as well. One of them, our program chair, will show this video with the sound off so that you can get a feel for all of the things we do when we're speaking. And this is a TED Talk. I'll leave the sound on for you on this, but it is really, really amazing how much is made from the nonverbal standpoint and how important that actually is. And then I'll talk about that a little bit after this.
Hear that? That's nothing. Which is what I, as a speaker at today's conference, have for you all. I have nothing. Nada. Zip. Zilch. Zippo. Nothing smart. Nothing inspirational. Nothing even remotely researched at all. I have absolutely nothing to say whatsoever. And yet, through my manner of speaking, I will make it seem like I do. Like what I am saying is brilliant. And maybe, just maybe, you will feel like you've learned something. Now, I'm going to get started with the opening. I'm going to make a lot of hand gestures. I'm going to do this with my right hand. I'm going to do this with my left. I'm going to adjust my glasses. And then I'm going to ask you all a question. By show of hands, how many of you all have been asked a question before? Okay, great. I'm seeing some hands. And again, I have nothing here. Now, I'm going to react to that and act like I'm telling you a personal anecdote. Something to break the tension, something to endear myself a little bit, something kind of embarrassing. And you guys are going to make an awe sound. It's true. It really happened. And now I'm going to bring it to a broader point. I'm going to reel you back in. I'm going to make it intellectual. I'm going to bring it to this man right here. Now, what this man did was important, I'm sure. But I, for one, have no idea who he is. I simply Google image the word scientist. And now, you see, I'd like it to seem like I'm making points, building an argument, inspiring you to change your life, when in reality, this is just me buying time. Now, if you don't believe me, let's take a look at the numbers. This is a real thing that's happening right now. The number of talks that I'm giving is 1. Interesting facts imparted thus far in said talk, well, that's going to be a 0. My height in inches is 70.5. Note the 0.5 there. 2 times 6 equals 12. And then interestingly enough, 6 times 2 also equals 12. That's math. 352 is a 3-digit number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then almost immediately following that, we get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, to add more filler here, I'm going to give you a couple more numbers to consider. 18, 237, 5,601, 2.6 million, 4, 24, staggering. These are real numbers, all of them. And to follow that up, let's take a look at some graphs. Now, if you take a look at this pie chart, what you're going to see is that the majority far exceeds the minority. Everybody see that? Cool, isn't it? And let's take a look at this bar graph because it shows similarly irrelevant data. Now, I'm doing this because I'd like to make it seem like I've done my homework. If you were, say, watching this on YouTube with the sound off, you might think, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. But I don't. I'm floundering, panicking, I've got nothing. I'm a total and utter phony. But you know what? I was offered a TED Talk. And damn it, I'm going to see it through. Now, if you take a look behind me, these are just words paired with vaguely thought-provoking stock photos. I'm going to point at them like I'm making use both of my time as well as your time, but in reality, I don't know what half of them mean. And now, as these continue, I'm just going to start saying gibberish. Wagga wah, gabba gabba, turkey, mouth in a mouth, chip, trip, my dog Skip. Rip it and dip it, Richard. I'm an itty-bitty baby bopper, and I'm hungry in my tum-tum. Brad Pitt, Uma Thurman. Names, things, words, and more things. And see, it feels like it might make sense, doesn't it? Like maybe, just maybe, I'm building to some sort of satisfying conclusion. I mean, I'm gesticulating as though I am. I'm pacing, I'm growing in intensity. I'm taking off my glasses, which, by the way, are just frames. I wore them to look smart, even though my vision is perfect. And now I'm going to slow things down a little bit. I'm going to change the tone. I'm going to make it seem like I'm building to a moment. And what if I was? Amazing, isn't it? What can you do? Life's a roller coaster. You know, if there's one thing you take away from my talk, I'd like you to think about what you heard at the beginning, and I'd like you to think about what you hear now. Because it was nothing, and it's still nothing. Think about that. Or don't, that's fine. And now I'm going to stop talking. Thank you.
So what you just watched, you're not getting that 5 minutes back. 5 minute TED Talk. There's really no point to it, right? And in the language side, there's nothing of importance at all discussed in that talk. But he simulates everything that we teach in public speaking class in order to get your audience paying attention and wanting to get your message across and be remembered and all of that stuff. And he does it through the nonverbal side of communication. So you see him silly things like he's wearing glasses which have no lenses in them, because the perception by a majority of people is that people who wear glasses are intelligent. And so he knows that, so he uses it. So he's conveying the idea of being intelligent by wearing glasses. And we pick up on that and we run with it. He's using a lot of gestures. He's using his eye contact, looking around the room, talking to people. He paces back and forth when he's making a change in his topic. He's using visual aids, which we can use also in public speaking in order to convey our ideas. He's brilliant at using his voice. You can hear him slow things down, and he's put space in between each word. So he talks a little slower, and that brings us back down. But then he starts talking really fast and he gets animated and he's like this, and it builds the energy back up in the room. And you feel that as an audience member. And that's the power of nonverbal communication. There's all kinds of things that he does there that in my public speaking class, we talk about analyzing, trying to help them be better speakers. Of course, that's not the purpose here, but understanding the power of nonverbal communication is. And you'll read in the book about the change that happened back in the 1960 presidential election between Nixon and Kennedy, and how effective the nonverbal portion of that was, because some people watched it on the radio and felt one of the candidates won that debate. They only had one. And the other half of the country watched it on TV. And so they had the visual side of it, and they had a completely different idea of who won the video. Who won the debate. And it was all pretty much predicated on how much nonverbal information you were receiving while you were watching this particular debate. And it swung the election. And it was an incredibly interesting thing. So nonverbal communication and all of these things, eye contact, for the way you use your voice, the way we use space, the way we use smell, the way we use gestures and movement, the way we physically look, like height, weight, that kind of thing, hair color, skin color, that. And then another channel we call artifacts. So the things that we wear, shirts, pants, jewelry, tattoos, even how we paint our room and the furniture we buy, all of that conveys messages about who we are, our self-perception, our presenting self to other people. And they pick up on that, and all of that is done without words. So without getting too much longer, being too wordy, I wanted to at least show you an example of how powerful nonverbal communication is. I'll see you later.